She didn't belong here, they said. A security guard stopped Ana Reyes at the lab's gate. His voice sharp, dismissive. The young scientists inside were racing to power a city with clean energy. Unaware, the 55-year-old woman they turned away held the key to their success. Her warning went unheard, her expertise ignored, until disaster struck, and they had no choice but to beg for her help. Could one woman's forgotten brilliance save an entire city? What does it take for the overlooked to rise? If the story moves you, hit that like button, share it, and subscribe for more tales of unsung heroes. Let's dive in. Ana Reyes lived quietly. At 55, her days followed a gentle rhythm. Each morning, she rose before dawn. Her small apartment in Portland still cloaked in shadow. The kettle hummed as she brewed tea, steam curling around a chipped mug with a faded logo from her old research lab. Her hands, steady from years of precision, tended a rooftop garden where tomatoes and herbs thrived under her care. It was a simple life, but it suited her. Ana had once been a lead scientist, a name in energy research. Now she was just a retiree, her past tucked away like the old books on her shelf. A worn photo of her with her team, smiling after a breakthrough, sat beside a dusty medal for innovation. She hadn't touched it in years. Her phone rarely rang. Former colleagues had moved on, chasing grants and glory. But Ana didn't mind. Her garden, her books, her routine, they were enough. Or so she thought. One morning, an email broke the silence. A local lab invited her to tour their new clean energy project. The words stirred something in her. She pulled on a jacket, grabbed her old badge, and headed out, unaware she was stepping into a story that would change everything. Ana stepped through the sleek glass doors of the Portland Energy Lab, the low hum of machinery wrapping around her like a familiar melody. The air was sharp with the tang of ozone and polished metal, stirring memories of her years spent in rooms just like this. Bright screens lined the walls, casting a sterile glow over young scientists who moved with the urgency of a team on the cusp of greatness. At the center of the lab stood the clean energy reactor, a towering marvel of steel and circuits, its faint vibrations pulsing through the floor. Ana's eyes, trained by decades of instinct, swept over the setup. She noticed details others missed. A subtle flicker on a cooling system monitor, a slight delay in the thermal output readings, a faint whine from a pressure valve that no one else seemed to hear. She approached a cluster of scientists near the main control panel, her steps measured, her old badge clipped to her jacket like a quiet claim to her past. The group was deep in discussion, their voices a mix of confidence and haste. Ana cleared her throat, her voice steady but warm, carrying the weight of experience. "Excuse me," she began, pointing to the monitor. "That cooling system looks like it's running hot. If you're bypassing the secondary regulator, it could overload the core's thermal sensors." The words hung in the air, precise and unhurried. The lead scientist, Dr. Lucas, turned to face her. He was young, barely past 30, his badge gleaming with credentials from elite universities. His eyes flicked over Ana, taking in her plain jacket, her graying hair, her unassuming presence. "Thanks for the observation, ma'am," he said, his tone polite but edged with impatience. "But we've got this under control. Our teams run simulations on every inch of this system." He gestured to the screens, where graphs and numbers danced in perfect order, as if to dismiss her concerns with data alone. Ana didn't waver. She stepped closer, her finger tracing the air toward the monitor's flickering display. "I've seen this kind of mismatch before," she said, her voice calm but insistent. "The thermal sensors aren't syncing with the primary coolant flow. If you don't adjust the bypass, you're risking a cascade failure." Her words were technical but clear, drawn from years of solving problems in high-stakes labs. She wasn't guessing, she knew. Lucas crossed his arms, a thin smile tugging at his lips. "Appreciate the input," he said, his courtesy now tinged with condescension. "But we're on a tight schedule here. Our engineers have the latest training, and we've got protocols for this." He nodded toward a younger tech, who stifled a smirk, his eyes darting to his colleagues as if sharing a private joke. Another scientist, a woman with a tablet in hand, glanced at Anna but quickly looked away, her focus returning to the screens. Anna's gaze lingered on the monitor, the flicker growing more pronounced. She tried once more, her tone still even, almost gentle. Back in my day, we had a reactor with a similar setup. One missed sensor calibration cost us a week of work. Are you sure the coolant bypass is rated for this load? She pointed to a specific gauge, her finger steady, her question cutting through the room's hum. Lucas's smile faded, replaced by a flash of irritation. "Ma'am, we're not running a history lesson here," he said, his voice colder now. "Why don't you head to the visitors' gallery? You can watch the demo from there." The words landed like a door slamming shut. The techs exchanged glances, one hiding a chuckle behind a cough. Anna's face remained unreadable, but her eyes held a quiet intensity, locking onto the reactor for a moment longer. She nodded once, a small, deliberate gesture, and turned to walk away, her footsteps soft against the polished floor. The lab's buzz swallowed her warning, leaving it to linger in the air, unheard, like a whisper against the roar of progress. Anna sat at her kitchen table, the glow of her laptop casting soft shadows across the room. Her fingers paused over the keys, crafting an email to the Portland Energy Lab. She detailed the cooling system flaw she'd seen, her words precise, urgent, yet measured, urging them to check the thermal sensors before the reactor's next test. She hit send, the faint chime of the email fading into the quiet. Days passed with no reply, only silence from the lab's sleek offices. Anna's routine held steady, tending her rooftop garden, pruning herbs under the gray Portland sky, but her thoughts lingered on the reactor, its faint whine echoing in her memory. She decided to return. The lab's entrance loomed ahead, its glass facade reflecting the city's pulse. Inside, the same hum of machinery greeted her, but the air felt heavier now, charged with the weight of her unanswered warning. Anna approached a young technician near the control room, a woman adjusting a monitor with quick, nervous hands. "Excuse me," Anna said, her voice calm but firm. "I sent an email about the reactor's cooling system. The bypass could cause a serious overload if it's not recalibrated." The technician glanced up, her brow furrowing. "I don't handle those decisions," she said, hesitating. "You'd need to talk to Dr. Lucas." Before Anna could respond, a security guard appeared, his badge glinting under the fluorescent lights. "Ma'am, you're not authorized to be here," he said, his tone flat, unyielding. Anna held up her old badge, its edges worn from years of use. "I'm just trying to help," she said, pointing to the monitor. "That system's unstable. I've worked on reactors like this before." The guard's eyes narrowed, unmoved. "This is a restricted area. You need to leave." His hand rested lightly on his radio, a silent warning. Anna's gaze shifted to the reactor, its steel frame looming beyond the glass. She tried once more, her voice steady despite the guard's presence. "If the sensors fail, you could lose control of the core. It's happened before. I've seen it." The technician looked uneasy, her eyes darting to the guard, then back to Anna. "I'll pass it on," she muttered, but her tone lacked conviction. From across the room, Dr. Lucas's voice cut through the hum. "Is there a problem here?" He strode over, his expression a mix of irritation and disdain. "Ma'am, you're becoming a distraction," he said, his words sharp. "We're running a cutting-edge operation, not a museum for outdated ideas." The technician averted her gaze, busying herself with the monitor. The guard stepped closer, his posture firm. "Let's go, ma'am," he said, gesturing toward the exit. Anna's face remained composed, but her eyes held a quiet fire, fixed on the reactor's flickering display. She nodded slowly, her hands slipping into her coat pockets. "I understand," she said, her voice low, deliberate. She turned, her footsteps echoing softly as she walked toward the doors. Behind her, Lucas muttered to the guard, "Keep an eye out. We don't need civilians meddling." The radio crackled in response, logging the incident as routine. Anna stepped into the cool air outside, the city's hum drowning out the lab's buzz. She paused, glancing back at the glass facade, her warning left behind like a seed buried in unturned soil. The Portland Energy Lab buzzed with chaos. Alarms blared, their shrill cries cutting through the sterile air as screens flashed red with warnings. The clean energy reactor, the city's hope for a sustainable future, had faltered. Its cooling system, strained beyond its limits, triggered an overload, plunging half the city into darkness. Streetlights flickered out, traffic signals froze, and homes went silent. Inside the lab, young scientists scrambled, their confident strides replaced by frantic steps. Dr. Lucas stood at the control panel, his face pale, his hands hovering over controls that refused to respond. The reactor's core was stable, for now. But the system was locked, its sensors misaligned, just as someone had warned. In a corner, a young technician, Sarah, stared at her tablet, her fingers trembling. She remembered the woman who'd come days before, the one with the calm voice and sharp eyes. Anna Reyes. Sarah pulled up the lab's visitor logs, her heart racing as she scanned the name. She approached Lucas, her voice hesitant. "Sir, there was a woman here. She mentioned the cooling system said it could fail like this." Lucas's jaw tightened, his eyes darting to the flickering monitors. "A civilian?" he snapped. "We've got experts for this." But Sarah pressed on, showing him the email Anna had sent, his words now hauntingly precise. Across the room, the lab's director, Dr. Evelyn Carter, watched the chaos unfold. Her silver hair caught the dim emergency lights as she moved with the steady calm of someone who'd seen crises before. She overheard Sarah's words and turned sharply. "What woman?" she asked, her voice cutting through the noise. Sarah handed her the tablet, Anna's email glowing on the screen. Carter's eyes narrowed as she read, then widened with recognition. "Reyes," she murmured, her mind racing back to a project decades ago, a breakthrough led by a brilliant scientist. She opened the lab's archive, pulling up Anna's file. The screen displayed a record of innovation. Lead scientist on a pioneering reactor, a medal for preventing a meltdown, a career cut short by budget cuts and politics. Carter turned to Lucas, her tone firm. "Why wasn't this followed up?" Lucas hesitated, his confidence crumbling. "She wasn't authorized, ma'am. I thought she was just meddling." Carter's gaze hardened, but she didn't linger on blame. "Find her," she ordered. "Now." Sarah nodded, already pulling up local records. Anna's address was listed in a modest neighborhood, tied to a community garden project. Carter addressed the room, her voice rising above the alarms. "We've got a reactor on the brink and a city in the dark. If this woman saw this coming, she's our best shot at fixing it." Lucas stood frozen, his earlier dismissal now a weight he couldn't shake. The lab's hum mixed with the distant wail of sirens outside, a reminder of the stakes. Sarah handed Carter a slip of paper with Anna's address, her hands steadier now. "She's not far," Sarah said. Carter took the paper, her mind already on the next step. The team around her worked to stabilize the reactor, but their efforts were patchwork, buying time at best. In the flickering light, Carter's eyes locked onto Anna's file, the faded photo of a younger Anna smiling beside a reactor not unlike the one now failing. The lab needed more than protocols. It needed someone who understood the machine like an old friend. Anna knelt in her rooftop garden, her hands brushing soil from a cluster of basil plants. The late afternoon sun cast golden streaks across the Portland skyline, the city still patchy with darkened streets. A knock at her door broke the quiet. She wiped her hands on a rag and opened it to find Dr. Lucas standing there, his polished demeanor replaced by a tense, almost humbled expression. His badge caught the light, but his eyes avoided hers. "Ms. Reyes," he began, his voice softer than before. "We need your help. The reactor. It's failing, just like you said." Anna's face stayed calm, but her gaze sharpened, taking in his unease. She followed him to a waiting car, the drive to the lab silent except for the hum of the engine. Lucas glanced at her once, then away. I should have listened, he said finally, the words heavy. I was wrong to dismiss you. Anna nodded, her silence louder than any reproach. At the lab, the glass doors parted, revealing a scene of controlled urgency. Technicians moved quickly, their screens still flashing warnings. Dr. Evelyn Carter stood near the reactor's control panel, her silver hair a beacon in the dim light. She stepped forward, extending a hand. Ms. Reyes, welcome back, she said, her voice warm but firm, carrying the weight of authority. The team around her paused, their eyes turning to Anna. Some faces held curiosity, others skepticism, their youth and credentials a stark contrast to her plain jacket and weathered hands. Carter gestured to the reactor, its steel frame looming behind a wall of monitors. You saw the flaw no one else did, she said. We're out of options. Can you help us? Anna's gaze swept the room, landing on the flickering display she'd pointed out days before. I can try, she said, her voice steady, grounded in years of solving problems others couldn't. Lucas stepped forward, his tone earnest now. Ms. Reyes, I misjudged you, he said, his words clear, unguarded. I treated you like an outsider when you knew more than any of us.
I'm sorry.
The room grew quieter, the hum of the reactor filling the space. Anna met his eyes, her expression softening but not yielding. You were doing your job, she said, her voice even. Now let's do mine. A few technicians exchanged glances, their skepticism giving way to something else, respect, perhaps, or hope. Carter led Anna to the control panel, where the team parted to make room. Anna's hands moved instinctively, tracing the layout of the controls, her fingers hovering over switches and dials she hadn't touched in years. The reactor's whine was louder now, a reminder of the city waiting in the dark. Sarah, the young technician who'd found Anna's file, stood nearby, her tablet clutched tightly. You really worked on something like this before? She asked, her voice a mix of awe and doubt. Anna nodded, her focus unbroken. A long time ago, she said, her words carrying the weight of experience. The lab's air was thick with tension, but Anna's presence brought a strange calm, like a steady hand on a ship's helm. Carter watched her closely, her arms crossed, her faith in Anna unspoken but clear. The team waited, their eyes on the woman who'd been turned away, now standing at the heart of their crisis. Anna took a breath, her hands ready, her mind already mapping the reactor's flaws, ready to face the challenge she'd seen coming all along. Anna stood before the reactor's control panel, the lab's hum a steady pulse in her ears. The air was heavy, charged with the weight of a city held in darkness. Her hands moved with quiet precision, tracing the familiar lines of switches and gauges, as if greeting an old friend. The team watched, their skepticism fading into silent anticipation. Dr. Carter stood nearby, her arms crossed, her eyes fixed on Anna's every move. The monitors flickered, their red warnings a stark reminder of the reactor's fragile state. Anna's voice broke the tension, calm but commanding. The cooling bypass is misaligned, she said, pointing to a gauge. We need to reroute the primary flow. She knelt beside the panel, her fingers deftly adjusting a valve. This system's like the one I worked on years ago, she said, her tone steady, almost conversational. It's stubborn, but it listens if you know its quirks. Sarah, the young technician, leaned closer, her tablet forgotten. How do you know that? She asked, her voice soft with awe. Anna glanced up, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Sleepless nights and a few meltdowns that never made the news, she said, her words carrying the weight of hard-earned wisdom. Anna directed the team with quiet authority, her instructions clear and precise. Sarah, recalibrate the thermal sensors to match this output, she said, tapping a monitor. And you, she nodded to another tech, check the secondary coolant line for blockages. The team moved as one, their earlier doubts replaced by trust. Lucas watched from the side, his face a mix of relief and respect. Anna's hands danced across the controls, adjusting dials, rerouting power, her mind mapping the reactor's flaws with a clarity no manual could match. The whine from the core began to soften, the monitor's red warnings flickering to yellow. Dr. Carter stepped closer, her voice low. "You're doing what our best engineers couldn't," she said, her tone a blend of admiration and gratitude. Anna didn't look up, her focus unbroken. "It's not about being the best," she said. "It's about knowing the machine like you know yourself." She paused, her hand resting on a switch. "This bypass here, it's too weak for the load. We need to isolate it and redirect the flow through the auxiliary system." She pointed to a secondary panel, her voice unwavering. "If we don't, the core will overheat again." The team followed her lead, their movements swift but careful. Sarah adjusted the sensors, her hands steadier now, guided by Anna's calm. The reactor's hum grew even, its vibrations settling into a steady rhythm. One by one, the monitors turned green, their readings aligning perfectly. A soft cheer broke out, quickly hushed by the weight of the moment. Anna stepped back, her hands resting at her sides, her eyes scanning the screens. The reactor was stable, the city's power flickering back to life beyond the lab's walls. Carter placed a hand on Anna's shoulder, her voice firm but warm. "You've given us more than a fix, Ms. Reyes," she said. "You've shown us what experience means." Anna nodded, her expression quiet, almost distant. She glanced at the reactor, its steel frame now silent, its secrets laid bare by her hands. The lab felt different now, not just a place of crisis but a space where a forgotten scientist had reclaimed her place. The team gathered around, their eyes on Anna, waiting for her next word. As the city outside began to glow once more, Anna stood at the lab's entrance, the glass doors sliding shut behind her. The hum of the reactor faded, replaced by the soft murmur of the city waking up. Lights flickered on across Portland, street lamps glowing, windows brightening in the dusk. The team's applause still echoed in her ears, their grateful faces a quiet contrast to the skepticism she'd faced days before. Dr. Carter approached, her silver hair catching the evening light. "Ms. Reyes," she said, her voice warm, "we'd be honored to have you join our team permanently. This lab needs you." Anna's eyes softened, but she shook her head gently, a small smile forming. "I'm flattered," Anna said, her tone steady, grounded. "But I came to help, not to stay. My place is elsewhere now." Carter nodded, respect in her gaze, and handed Anna a folded letter, a formal commendation for her work. Anna slipped it into her coat pocket, its weight light but meaningful. She turned to leave, her steps slow, deliberate, as the lab's buzz grew distant. Lucas caught up to her, his face open, earnest. "Ms. Reyes," he said, pausing, "thank you for what you did, and for showing us what we missed." Anna met his eyes, her expression kind but firm. "Keep listening, Dr. Lucas," she said, "not just to the machines." She walked into the cool evening, the city's pulse alive around her. The skyline sparkled, its lights a testament to the reactor now humming steadily, powered by her hands. Anna's thoughts drifted to her garden, her books, the quiet life waiting for her. She passed a park where families gathered, their laughter mingling with the hum of restored power. A young girl waved from a swing, her smile bright under a glowing street lamp. Anna waved back, a warmth settling in her chest, the kind that comes from knowing you've made a difference without needing the spotlight. At home, Anna climbed the stairs to her rooftop garden. The air carried the scent of earth and herbs, a world apart from the lab's sterile hum. She knelt beside her basil plants, her fingers brushing their leaves, grounding her in the present. The city stretched out before her, its lights painting the horizon in gold and white. She pulled the commendation letter from her pocket, unfolding it under the soft glow of a solar lantern. The words praised her expertise, her calm under pressure, her gift to the city. Anna read them once, then tucked the letter away, her eyes lifting to the skyline. She stood, her hands resting on the garden's railing, the breeze cool against her face. The city was alive, its heartbeat steady, its people unaware of the woman who'd brought it back to light. Anna didn't need their thanks. She'd done what she came to do. Her gaze lingered on the horizon, where the last streaks of sunset faded into night. This was enough, she thought, this quiet moment, this view, this life she'd chosen. From the street below, the hum of life rose. Cars moving, voices calling. A city reborn. Anna took a slow breath, her heart full, and turned back to her garden. Her silhouette framed against the glowing city, a quiet hero at peace with the world she'd helped save. If the story touched you, hit that like button, share it with friends, and subscribe for more tales of unsung heroes. Your support keeps these stories alive.